As a local, Grand Rapids is a city that has spent decades trying to define itself. Michigan's second largest city, yes, but that title doesn't automatically grant cultural weight. It's not Detroit with its global legacy of music and industry. It's not Chicago with its density, transit, and cultural ecosystem. Grand Rapids sits in a liminal space, too big to be small and too small to be big, and constantly trying to brand itself as the next emerging urban center. The Van Andel Arena has long been the city's attempt as a centerpiece, a 12,000-seat venue that tries to project major market energy. It's the kind of place where big acts stop by occasionally, but not consistently enough to redefine the city's cultural gravity. Now, a new professional soccer stadium is rising downtown. It's the latest move in the city's attempt to build a sports corridor, a phase that sounds more ambitious than the reality on the ground. The Griffins, the Gold, the Rise, teams that operate one tier below the major leagues, form the backbone of this ecosystem. And that's the pattern. Grand Rapids is always adjacent to something bigger, adjacent to major league sports, adjacent to big city culture, adjacent to national relevance. The cranes are up and the renderings are glossy, but locals know the truth. The city is trying to scale into an identity it's not earned yet. To understand Grand Rapids, you have to understand the families who have built it and shaped it. DeVos, Myers, and Van Andel. These names are not just on buildings, they define the city's development model. Their influence is structural, not symbolic. The DeVos Performance Hall, the Van Andel Museum Center, Frederick Meyer Gardens. These aren't just cultural assets, they're the architectural expansion of private wealth shaping public life. These create a unique kind of urban geography, instead of neighborhoods shaped by culture or community. Downtown is where the largest public spaces feel like curated extensions of private influence. And unlike cities where philanthropic influence is dispersed across dozens of families or institutions, Grand Rapids' power structure is unusually concentrated. Development often follows the priorities of a few families rather than the needs of the broader population. People from larger cities notice this immediately. The influence isn't subtle, it's baked into the architecture, the funding models, and the civic identities. Grand Rapids markets itself as a collaborative and community-driven, but the reality is more top-down than bottom-up. Grand Rapids loves to remind us who comes from here. Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum sits along the riverfront, a prominent symbol of national relevance. It's a point of pride, but also a reminder that the city often leans on legacy to validate itself. The DeBarge family brought national attention through R&B long before the city tried to brand itself as a cultural hub. Their story is one of talent emerging from a place that doesn't always know how to nurture it. And then there's Floyd Mayweather Jr., one of the most successful boxers in history. Born and trained here, he sharpened his skills in small local gyms like the pride of Grand Rapids before leaving to become a global figure. These stories matter, but they also highlight patterns. Grand Rapids produces talent, but rarely retains it. People leave to become who they are. The city claims them, but doesn't always hold them. There's one part of Grand Rapids that actually achieved national relevance. It's the medical mile. Stretching along Michigan Street, this healthcare corridor is one of the highest concentrations of clinical research, medical education, and healthcare investment in the Midwest. It includes Corewell Health, formerly Spectrum Health, Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, Michigan State University College of Human Medicine, the Van Andel Institute, a major biomedical research center, Grand Valley State University Health Center campus. Billions of dollars have been invested here over the last 2 decades, and I've seen it happen. The medical mile is the rare example of Grand Rapids building something that isn't trying to imitate Detroit or Chicago. It's something the city actually does well. But even here, the patterns return. The success is heavily tied to the same families and institutions that shape the rest of the city. The Van Andel Institute, for example, is a major national research center, but also reinforces the city's concentrated power structure. The medical mile is impressive, but also isolated. It's a vertical corridor of labs, hospitals, and classrooms, an island of innovation that doesn't necessarily translate into broader cultural or social infrastructure. Long before Grand Rapids was a city, this land belonged to Anishinaabe, collectively known as the people of the Three Fires or the Three Fires Confederacy. Their presence is not a footnote, it's foundational. Today, sovereign tribe nations remain major economic forces in West Michigan. Gun Lake Casino, owned by the Band of Potawatomis, and the Firekeeper Casino, owned by the Huron Band of Potawatomis, are amongst the region's largest employers. Their revenue supports tribal citizens, cultural preservation, and land stewardship, operating outside the city's usual philanthropic power structure. Seasonal powwows and cultural gatherings remain vital sources for Indigenous identity, artistry, and community. They offer a deeper, older narrative about the region, one that predates the city's branding efforts and development cycles. Grand Rapids rarely acknowledges this history in its urban planning, but the region's economics and cultural landscape cannot be understood without it. And if you want to learn more about the Anishinaabe, go ahead and check out this video with my bestie, Katrina, who works at the museum. There's one place that captures Grand Rapids' attempt to feel cosmopolitan. It's the downtown market. On the surface, it's a food hall, but it's also a curated incubator for up-and-coming chefs, bakers, and small food businesses. It gives new culinary talent a place to test ideas without the cost of the full restaurant. It's one of the few places in the city where creativity feels accessible. But even here, the city's contradictions show. The market is polished, structured, and intentionally designed. A safe, sanitized version of urban vibrancy. It's community but curated, diversity but managed, creativity but within a controlled footprint. People from bigger cities often see it as a starter version of food halls they're used to. Smaller, quieter, and more expensive. Locals appreciate it, but it doesn't solve the deeper issue. Grand Rapids still struggles to create organic, unstructured, social spaces where people can simply exist. The market is a step forward, but also a reminder of how carefully the city choreographs its version of urban life. Every fall, Art Prize transforms downtown into a temporary gallery. For a few weeks, the city feels bigger, more alive, more curious, more open. Artists from around the world install work on the storefronts, parks, benches, bridges, and lobbies. Crowds fill the streets, coffee shops overflow. The city feels like it's finally achieving the cultural energy it advertises. And then, just as quickly as it ends, some pieces stay, murals, sculptures, installations that become part of the city's permanent landscape. But the energy doesn't. Art Prize is a bust, not a baseline. Its seasonal identity disappears when the event does. The Grand Rapids Art Museum, or GRAM, anchors the city's cultural district year-round. Its exhibits bring in regional, national works, and its architecture gives the city a sense of modernity. But like many institutions here, it's more admired than it is attended. It's respected, but not central to daily life. Festivals fill the calendars: Festival of the Arts, Laugh Fest, World of Winter. Each one briefly expands the city's personality, but they're temporary. They don't solve the deeper issue. Grand Rapids doesn't have a constant cultural rhythm. It has spikes of activity surrounded by long stretches of quiet. Even in Rosa Parks, the city's most reliable gathering space, reflects this pattern. In the summer, it hosts concerts, rallies, community events. In the winter, it becomes an ice skate rink, one of the few genuine, joyful public spaces downtown. But outside of the programmed events, it often sits empty. Grand Rapids knows how to create moments. It struggles to create momentum. The Amtrak Pier Marquette connects Grand Rapids to Chicago once a day. For many locals, it's a lifeline, a way to access a city with density, transit, nightlife, and cultural ecosystems that Grand Rapids simply does not have. Train is more than transportation. It's a reminder that people often leave Grand Rapids to experience the things the city claims it's building towards. A reminder that the city's aspirations are modeled after places that already exist. A reminder that that gap between ambition and reality is still wide. Belknap Lookout used to be one of the city's quietest neighborhoods, tucked into a hill overlooking the downtown, with narrow streets, modest homes, and a sense of calm that felt separate from the city's growth. But development is creeping in. New houses, new medical buildings, new traffic patterns, all tied to the expansion of the medical mile. The neighborhood's character is shifting. Longtime residents feel the pressure, the quiet is fading. Even the indoor rink, a rare beloved space for year-round skating, sits in a neighborhood that's changing faster than the people who use it. What was once a peaceful pocket of the city is becoming another extension of the development corridor. Belknap and even the Crescent neighborhood is a microcosm of Grand Rapids' larger story. Growth that feels inevitable, but not always intentional. Change that feels fast, but not always thoughtful. A city expanding, but not always listening. For all its growth, Grand Rapids has a social infrastructure problem. The city has breweries, restaurants, curated markets, festivals, and seasonal events, but it lacks something more fundamental. A third space, a place that isn't work, isn't home, and isn't centered around spending money. People who move here from larger cities often say the same thing. It's hard to meet people, it's hard to break in, it feels like everyone around has their circle. Grand Rapids is a city where community exists, but it's often inherited and not discovered. Friend groups formed in high school or college stay tight. Neighborhoods feel familiar to people who grew up in them, but opaque to newcomers. Social life is built around family, couples, and established networks. And for young adults, especially single people, the options narrow quickly. Most evening activities evolve around food or nightlife. Most daytime activities revolve around family or kids. Most community spaces are programmed, not organic. This isn't about blaming the city, but also naming the gap. Because until Grand Rapids acknowledges this missing layer, it will continue to feel like a place where people come for opportunities, but leave for connections. Grand Rapids wants to feel like a big city, but its infrastructure still behaves like a small one. The Dash is free, but limited. The bus system is functional, but not intuitive. The Amtrak line to Chicago is useful, but infrequent. The walkability is improving, but inconsistent. And the city still relies heavily on cars, not because people want to, but because they have to. This creates a strange tension. Grand Rapids builds dense housing, but not dense transit. It builds entertainment districts like the new amphitheater that's being built, but not the connective tissue that makes them accessible. It builds moments of urban life, but not the systems that sustain them. The result is a city that feels like a starter kit for urban living, a place that gestures towards a big city energy without feeling committed to it. And yet, the desire is there, the potential is there, the people are here. What's missing is alignment. Grand Rapids shines and bursts. Art Prize turns the city into a gallery. World of Winter transfers the riverfront into a glowing landscape. Festival of the Art fills downtown with music and food. Rosa Parks Circle becomes a skating rink in the winter and a concert venue in the summer. The downtown market gives new chefs a platform. The Graham anchors the cultural district. Neighborhoods like Belknap and Crescent offer pockets of charm, even as development reshapes them. This moment matters. They show what the city can be, but they're temporary. They don't add up to the constant cultural rhythm. They don't solve the third space problem. They don't create the kind of everyday community that makes the city feel alive between events. Grand Rapids knows how to create experiences. Now it needs to learn how to create continuity. Grand Rapids has spent years trying to model itself after bigger cities, Detroit's grit, Chicago's density, Portland's craft culture, and Austin's creative energy. But the truth is simple. Grand Rapids will never be those cities, and it doesn't need to. The city's strength isn't in imitation. It's in the things that already work. The medical mile research ecosystem, the downtown market incubator model, the festivals that bring people together, the neighborhoods that still feel like neighborhoods, the artists who stay, the chefs who experiment, the communities that build their own spaces when the city doesn't provide them. Grand Rapids doesn't need to chase someone else's blueprint. It needs to understand its own. So where does Grand Rapids go from here? Not towards becoming Detroit, not towards becoming Chicago, not towards becoming the next it city on a list. The next chapter of Grand Rapids should be built by the people who actually live here, the locals, the transplants, the students, the families, the artists, the workers, the people who want to stay but need a reason to. A city becomes vibrant when its people have places together. A city becomes connected when its spaces are accessible. A city becomes authentic when it stops performing and starts listening. Grand Rapids doesn't need more branding. It needs more belonging. And that's the call to action. Build the third space. Support the small creators, protect the neighborhoods, and invest in the people, not just the projects. Create the community the city keeps advertising, but hasn't fully built yet. Grand Rapids is becoming something. The question is whether it's becoming something real or something it's been pretending to be. Grand Rapids is trying to define itself, but is it looking at the right blueprint? Tell me which city you think Grand Rapids should be modeling its social infrastructure after, or what you would like to see in the city if you're a local as well. Until next time, bye!